Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to take you through how and why I made this spread in my journal. So I started with a spread that was already inked because I wanted the sort of basic inspiration that I didn't want to start with a white page. And I used homemade Mod Podge that you just saw me mixing there, PVA glue, wood glue, mixed with water. And then I used leftover pieces of tissue paper from my inking projects. I have been inking a lot of pages, staining them like the pages you see here. And I've been using tissue paper and crepe paper. And the tissue paper is very usable in other projects. So these pieces are like washed out green pieces of tissue paper that I'm just gluing down with the help of my homemade Mod Podge. And I'm going for a diagonal composition here to begin with because I like that. I like the kind of balance that you get. I didn't have a plan at all. I just started. I wanted this spread to be reminiscent of nature. Because yesterday evening I went to see the film Men by Alex Garland in the cinema. And it really made an impression on me. And I got this really vivid, tangible, visceral sense of nature in it. And I wanted to make a nature spread and just sort of process. This morning I tried to journal about it. With words, but it doesn't work. This film is all like physical, emotional experience, so writing about it wasn't doing it for me. But that isn't to say that you can't use words in your spread. So I went to my trusty Shakespeare. This is a complete work that has been water damaged, so I use it for art journaling. And I ripped some quotes out from Merry Wives, As You Like It, Measure for Measure, and The Winter's Tale. Because I felt that they sort of express different aspects of this film. In the finished project, I don't know that you can see any of these words, but I know they're there, and it sort of guided the process, and maybe you can see it like texture through all the green that I will add. So of course, this spread is green. the tissue paper, I look at it, my thought process when I added them was that it was kind of leaves, foliage, because there is shall we say, I don't want to spoil this film if anyone wants to see it, but nature and trees and foliage specifically is kind of central in some scenes. I will say that this film is not for everyone. It is a horror film. It has some very gory scenes. Normally I don't like that, but in this one I wasn't bothered. So, heads up if you get interested from watching this video, look it up and watch the trailer before you decide. Anyway, here I'm adding some more tissue paper inking on top of the quotes, and some more, I'm just gluing down some more tissue paper. And I wanted this spread to be both joyful and sort of menacing at the same time, because that's what I took away from the film. Joyful is probably not the word anyone else will use. And I don't mean joyful either, but I wanted the spread to reflect that nature can be both menacing and necessary. Like, we are of nature, we are part of nature, even though we try to build it away with buildings and religion and laws and rules and social mores, and I felt that that was central to the film, and I wanted to express that in this spread. So here I am cutting out pictures, like nature pictures, and gluing down this stone from a picture of an insect. So I thought that would ground the spread in the bottom left corner. And then I fussy cut this insect. I'm not sure what it is, but it's funny because it sort of reminds me of one of Rory Kinnear's characters in this film. It's just, I mean, he doesn't look like an insect. I love him, but there was just something about his posture as one of the characters in some of the scenes that reminds me of this insect. So, and that character was meant to be menacing, but I mostly felt like it was. Well, I don't want to use spoilers, but let's just say that it felt like nature wanted us to let it in, like to welcome it back into our lives. I didn't see it as something purely menacing, but rather like something true. I don't know. Here I have gathered some more pieces from my stash, just intuitively, things that caught my eye from my April box, because that's where all the green stuff is. And I am gluing down some leaves from a fake flower thing. I don't even remember where this is from. And a feather from an Easter decoration that sort of disintegrated. So I glued that down because they're sort of nature-y things. And I'm moving around the pieces to see where I want them. And yeah, none of these strips of paper made it into the final spread because they looked too like clean. I wanted this to be more wild. Here I am cutting out a bird from a piece of fabric, embroidered fabric, and gluing it down in the corner there. It just looked like it wanted to break free, and that was something I felt had its place on this spread. And I was really happy to find this picture in my stash. I think it's the ram, the zodiac ram, and it just really fit into the theme of, well, not the film exactly, but my feelings about the film and the themes I thought I detected. So that was really spot on. And it's from a book about astrology, and the paper is kind of shiny, but when you use Mod Podge or PVA glue mixed with water, as I do, on top, you can take away the shine. I've seen people do it on YouTube, other YouTubers showing tutorials about how to remove the shine from magazine images and stuff like that. And this was the easiest way of doing it. Just add Mod Podge. And now I am adding some green paint, and it was the wrong green paint, so I painted over it with another more moss green variety, which I preferred. I don't like cold greens with a lot of blue in them. I prefer the yellow ones. So by now I have covered up most of the original color on the page, the inking that I started with. But I do think it gives, having that inked page underneath gives some depth and texture or just interest on the page. So it's not wasted. And the reason I wanted the paint on top was that it makes it more cohesive when everything is covered by the same color. Even the stone down there in the bottom left corner, I covered it with some very faint, thin layer of moss green. I even did the bird and the feather. And, you know, in hindsight, perhaps I shouldn't have done the bird because it sort of disappears into the background, and maybe it should have been slightly more of a focal point, but, you know, you live, you learn. Here I am adding a darker green to the edges because that gives, I like having my edges dark, basically. But I then blotted some of it off, I think, if I remember correctly. Oh, no, I didn't. I added gold to sort of dull it down a bit because it was too vivid compared to the rest and it didn't look natural. So the gold is sort of, it gives this ochre, beige, brown impression, which I like. I like gold. I use gold all the time. And then I felt like I wanted some kind of border to, I don't know, bound the spread in somehow. So I glued a trim onto the edge there with the same PVA glue I use for everything. And the trim is kind of dark gold. So I really liked that. And I put another one on the right hand side. So that gave the spread kind of a frame. And I like that. And the dark gold, it's not, it doesn't draw the eye because it fits in with the general color scheme, but it does provide this sort of clear boundary. And then I wanted to darken down the edges even more, so I used Prussian blue on the edges there. And the whole time when I'm using my acrylics on top of something else, I always use a spray bottle with water to lighten it up because it's quite thick and opaque. I blotted some of the excess off and almost had an accident there, but I managed to save the Shakespeare quote up there. Just adding more of the Prussian blue and spraying it and moving it around and blotting up the excess. It's a process, it's back and forth. Then I found this in my stash and I really liked, I thought it really fit with the theme as well, because there were some like ancient pagan symbols in the film. And this makes me think of that. It's actually from a napkin that my sister made for me once upon a time. And I felt like it functions almost as a moon on this spread up there in the corner. Like a round thing that oversees everything. I don't know. And then this is from that book about astrology as well. And I felt like this represented, these like symbols and calculations or whatever, represented how humans try to make sense of the natural world in different ways, calculating and trying to predict things and writing things down, like the seasonal, what to expect when from the weather and all those things. Trying to tame or just handle nature, because it is it is dangerous in many ways. So I used the same moss green color on that and ripped away most of it and just kept these astrological symbols, some of them, and I put some gold onto it as well to make it fit in with the rest of the spread, obviously. And I wanted to put that in the background. I wanted it to blend into the background and then have the insect as a stand-in for Rory Kinnear's character, sort of in the foreground on top of that to signify that humans try to control nature by all these calculations and stuff, but somehow nature wins. Or in this film, nature was sort of broke through our defenses. And I think my take on this film is very different from everyone else's. You can take away almost anything from this, I think. In one interview I saw, I think they said that this is kind of a mirror, one of those films that is a mirror to the audience. So whatever your baggage is, that's what you see in it. And the most obvious story in it isn't really, I don't see myself in it. So I kind of ignored the surface story and picked up on this nature theme instead, and how I mean, we have to live in our bodies, in the world, and they have a mind of their own sometimes, and you have to keep some things in check. But I mean, I don't want to say too much, but there are physical things that you just have to deal with as a human. And you may think yourself civilized and all those things, but it's still a struggle. You always struggle against decay and the opposite. I'm being very lugubrious, but I don't want to spoil anything for you or say too much so that I, color someone else's view of this film, if any of you ever goes to see it. And by now, of course, I have used lots of words to describe my feelings and thoughts about this film, even though I started by saying that I couldn't. But I guess when I got it all down on paper like this, in a physical, visual way, that loosened my words as well. And that really strengthens my view that my journal should be everything. It should house everything, like trackers and morning pages and just very structured journaling, and these pages where I just go to town and do what I feel like and almost destroy the pages, because it's all one. It's all a reflection of what's in my head and in my heart, and that's what I want my journal to be. And now I'm just adding some final touches because I felt like it was too empty down there beneath the ram, so I added some tissue paper leaves for him to run through, making him part of the scenery, which is the whole point.